knowledge is not the problem. Our science of materialism alleges causal relations among emphatically quantitative phenomena. It is therefore striking to find that economic science is so often characterized as mathematics without numbers. However apt, this characterization is semantically disingenuous. Dictionary definitions of calculation or computation generally reference the mathematical nature of these operations, and mathematical operations are formulated with an aim toward quantitative outcomes. Friedrich von Hayek's famous paper on the use of knowledge in society has given us the definitive algebraic statement of what a realized solution to the calculation problem would look like. The conditions which the solution of this optimal problem must satisfy have been fully worked out and can be best stated in mathematical form. Put at their briefest, they are that the marginal rates of substitution between any two commodities or factors must be the same in all their different uses. A more approachable formulation of the calculation problem might be that the economy adjusts its asset levels until every one agrees as to the value of everything. Yet another formulation might be the economic state in which all possibilities for extraordinary profit or loss have been driven out. Any of these statements would describe economic homeostasis as a quantifiable entity. Having stated the solution to Mises' calculation problem in mathematical form, Hayek proceeds for some 5,500 words to argue that the calculation problem is not at all mathematical. The peculiar character of the problem of a rational economic order is determined precisely by the fact that the knowledge of the circumstances of which we must make use never exists in concentrated or integrated form, but solely as the dispersed bits of incomplete and frequently contradictory knowledge which all the separate individuals possess. Throughout his paper, Hayek subsumes this scientist view from nowhere, and that economic calculation is to be performed by a sort of homunculus, sitting outside the processes of economic adjustment. The economic problem of society is thus not merely a problem of how to allocate given resources, if given is taken to mean given to a single mind, which deliberately solves the problem set by these data. It is rather a problem of how to secure the best use of resources known to any of the members of society for ends whose relative importance only these individuals know. Or, to put it briefly, it is a problem of the utilization of knowledge which is not given to anyone in its totality. Hayek's paper is essentially an elaboration of the plethora of information that this single mind would require in order to direct economic operations toward the economic optimum. Finding it unthinkable that this vast array of data could be continuously focused and acted upon by his perspective, all-seeing and omnipotent homunculus, Hayek concluded upon the practical impossibility of artificial economic calculation. The Austrian school has since advanced this argument to propose that Hayek's plenary suite of information is accurately synthesized by, but only by, prices revealed through the operations of free markets. Their case against economic calculation is completed by positing the categorical unknowability of the efficient prices that might guide the economy through all the chaotic physical states and disequilibrium prices leading to stasis. With efficient prices being defined only in terms of an equilibrium upheld by optimality, it immediately follows that operable prices cannot be discerned until homeostasis has arrived. Hence, these prices cannot be available to guide the economy's dynamics while the economy is operating in a disequilibriated state. Thus, the Austrians' case relies on their wholly unsupported assertion that any calculation of efficient prices must reference the criteria of equilibrium. But to the contrary, the plain fact that our economy functions most usually outside of equilibrium establishes that efficient prices are being calculated on the basis of information that is available in any of the economy's numberless chaotic states. The Austrian's case begins to fall apart upon closer examination of Hayek's criteria for a solved calculation problem. His reference to marginal rates of substitution establishes the economy's production and utility trade-offs as the boundary conditions within which economic calculation occurs. Economic optimality is therefore conceived entirely within the physical dimensions of the economy's boundary conditions. Money and prices are altogether absent from Hayek's formulation. A commonplace of economic pedagogy has it that value resides in the shapes of production and utility trade-offs. If this is true, then the plethora of physical and financial data needed to perform economic calculation is already there, in the boundary conditions through which Hayek perceived the calculation problem. Economics' boundary conditions of production and utility trade-offs pervade the domain of economic causation, and economic science is hardly in a position to plead the impossibility of quantifying this technical potential. The comprehensive effect alleged for these familiar data in respect to the economy's behavior being what it is, Hayek's notion of a single mind that performs economic calculus is merely redundant. Doing away with Hayek's homunculus as the agent of material causality, we can also dispose with any need to focus all those economic particulars required for his wholly miraculous algebraic performances. Nowhere is it written that data must be focused before it can be acted upon. Again, to the contrary, the complex systems of which we have some understanding all operate on data as it occurs in situ. SF Econ's peculiar transcendental production functions have been shown to be empirically sound, and our emulators operate quite efficiently without reference to any equilibrium criteria. Our only exogenous references are the same as Hayek's. While it might not be at all obvious how the gradients of utility functions might underlie calculations of efficient prices in a dynamic context, neither can there be a priori grounds for supposing that such calculations are beyond the capabilities of, once again, merely human intellect. Having found that defining efficient prices in terms of stasis prohibits description of the economic dynamism we observe, the scientific personality will search out a more serviceable definition. SF Econ offers that efficient prices are those that efficiently guide the economy toward the optimal state implicit in its utility parameters. Such prices will themselves be constantly changing to express the system's state in relation to its ever-changing proximity to the optimum. When, but only when, the optimum arrives, will this stream of prices resolve to efficient prices as currently defined. All that the Austrian economists have accomplished here is to identify demonstrably efficient dynamic prices as sine qua non to macroeconomic causation. Their subsequent finding, against all evidence, that these manifestly quantitative creatures are elusive because they cannot exist, is simply a refusal to engage with the project most apposite to understanding how the economy operates.